Title: The Hundred Years' War, A Century of Bloodshed Between France and England. Chapter 1, The Roots of Conflict, A Tale of Two Kingdoms. Narrator, male voice, calm, neutral. To understand the Hundred Years' War, we must first travel back in time, to a Europe ruled by kings and governed by bloodlines. In the 12th and 13th centuries, England and France were deeply entwined. English monarchs held vast lands in France through inheritance and marriage. This strange reality meant that English kings were vassals to the French crown, technically subordinate, yet politically defiant. The seeds of war were sown when the Capetian dynasty in France began to push back. Tensions simmered, especially after the death of the French king Charles IV in 1328. He left no male heir. The closest claim came from Edward III of England, whose mother was Charles's sister. But the French nobility rejected Edward's claim, citing Salic law, which excluded inheritance through the female line. They crowned Philip VI, a cousin of Charles IV. Edward III refused to accept this. It wasn't just a personal insult, it was a challenge to his legitimacy. A century-long war was about to begin. Chapter 2, The Outbreak, Edward's Claim and the War Begins, 1337–1340s. Narrator, in 1337, Edward III formally declared himself the rightful king of France. His bold move was not only political but strategic. He began assembling a coalition of allies across Flanders and the Low Countries. His aim? To strike at France's economic heart, its trade. The early battles were mostly raids and sea skirmishes. One of the first major engagements was the Battle of Sluis in 1340. It was a naval battle off the coast of Flanders. The English navy, led by Edward himself, crushed the French fleet, giving England control of the Channel and making future landings in France possible. But while England dominated at sea, France controlled the land. A long and costly land campaign would now unfold. Chapter 3, The Black Prince and the English Victories, 1346–1356. Narrator, in 1346, Edward III launched a full-scale invasion of northern France. With an army of around 15,000 men, he landed in Normandy and began pillaging towns. The French army, far larger, marched to intercept him. What followed was one of the most decisive battles in the war, the Battle of Crécy. The English longbowmen, trained to shoot 6 arrows a minute, devastated the French cavalry. The French nobles charged repeatedly, only to be cut down in waves. It was a stunning English victory. Edward then laid siege to Calais, capturing it in 1347. Calais would remain under English control for over 2 centuries. But the crowning glory came in 1356. Edward's son, Edward the Black Prince, led a daring campaign through southern France. At the Battle of Poitiers, the English again outnumbered and outmaneuvered the French. They captured King John II of France. France was humiliated. Chapter 4, Treaty and Truce, the Treaty of Bretigny, 1360. Narrator, with their king held captive in England, the French were forced to negotiate. Chapter 7, Henry V and the Miracle of Agincourt, 1415. Narrator, in 1415, Henry V invaded France with a small army. After capturing Harfleur, his exhausted troops marched toward Calais. They were intercepted by a massive French force. What followed was the legendary Battle of Agincourt. The French, bogged down in mud and wearing heavy armor, were again cut down by English longbowmen. Thousands of French nobles died. It was a crushing defeat. Agincourt became a symbol of English military genius and French overconfidence. Henry emerged as a national hero. Chapter 8, The Treaty of Troyes and a Divided France, 1420. Narrator, in 1420, the English struck a decisive political blow. The Treaty of Troyes recognized Henry V as the heir to the French throne. He married Catherine of Valois, daughter of Charles VI. The treaty essentially disinherited the Dauphin, Charles VII. Upon Charles VI's death, Henry would become king of both England and France. But fate had other plans. Henry V died in 1422. Charles VI died shortly after. Henry's infant son, Henry VI, was now proclaimed king, while the Dauphin refused to accept the treaty. France was split in two, the north controlled by England and Burgundy, the south loyal to Charles VII. Chapter 9, The Rise of Joan of Arc, 1429, narrator. In 1429, a young peasant girl from Domremy changed the course of the war. Joan of Arc, claiming divine visions, convinced Charles VII to let her lead an army to relieve the besieged city of Orleans. Her courage inspired the French troops. Against all odds, the English were driven back. Joan then escorted Charles to Reims, where he was crowned king, restoring legitimacy to the Valois line. Joan's presence revitalized French morale. But in 1430, she was captured by the Burgundians and handed over to the English. In 1431, she was tried for heresy and burned at the stake. Chapter 10, The French Revival and English Decline, 1430s to 1440s, narrator. Joan's death did not end the French revival. It accelerated it. Charles VII restructured the army, improved taxation, and created a standing force. The English, meanwhile, were faltering. Henry VI lacked the charisma or skill of his father. Political infighting and economic strain weakened their grip on France. In 1435, the Treaty of Arras saw Burgundy switch sides, now supporting Charles VII. This was a devastating blow to English ambitions. The French began a steady reconquest, town by town, province by province. Chapter 11, The Fall of Normandy and Gascony, 1449 to 1453, narrator. By the 1440s, the French had retaken most of their territory. In 1449, Charles VII launched a final campaign to retake Normandy. Within months, major cities like Rouen and Caen fell. In 1453, the war reached its climax at the Battle of Castillon. French artillery, now highly advanced, crushed the English forces. Talbot, the last great English commander, was killed. Gascony, the last major English possession, was lost. The 100 Years' War was effectively over. ChatGPT said. The war ended in 1453 without a formal peace treaty. England kept only Calais. France united under Charles VII, securing the Valois dynasty. The war transformed Europe, ending chivalry and ushering in the era of professional armies.